We are starting now. Now, before we go ahead, I want you to know that this is Transition School, and we're an edutech platform. We train people in helping people. We train people to help them learn tech skills and land their first tech job. Now, this interview preparation clinic is majorly for alumni and people who are looking to come into our community. So in our community, it doesn't matter if you're learning with us, you can still be in our community, get good information, get educational content until you're ready to take our training, or until you are ready to, go into the internship phase, because we also provide that. Now, go ahead to introduce myself. My name is Praise Okechukwu. I'm a growth lead here at Transition School. And what I do basically is to help people get started in tech. And how do I do this? Is to recommend premium tech skills for them. Now, this is the part where I want to meet you. Before we get started, I want to meet you. I know we have some of our alumni here. Yes, I still want to meet you. Put in the chat box your name and where you're joining the call from. Okay, so let's go. This is going to be a very interactive session. And I honestly hope that you have your questions ready. For every question, for anyone who is here, I want to assume that you're looking to get into the tech space. You already have your questions ready. So get them ready. But before then, put in the chat box. Let me know where you're joining the call from. Put your name and where you're joining the call from. So if your name is Praise, like my name is Praise, I'm currently joining this call from London. So you do the same, your name and where you're joining the call from. I know we just have like 11 people or more than that on the call. So please put in the comment section your name and where you were joining the call from. Okay, guys, let's go. Let's keep it coming. Your name and where you're joining this call from. Guys, you guys want to hear me? Don't hear me. Don't hear me. Your name and where you're joining the call from. Okay, maybe I should go first. Maybe after that, you guys can go. All right. So I would go first. Praise. I'm joining from London. So, guys, let's keep it coming like that. Your name and where you're joining this session from. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, Ife NC. Where's NC? Do you mind telling me what NC means? My name is Amiza. I'm joining the floor from Portsmouth. Okay, good to have you here, Amiza. Winade from London. Okay, Ife from Newcastle. Boluwat Ife from Wolverhampton. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Let's keep it coming. I just need one more and then we get started. One more introduction. All right, so we already know why we're here today. I will just go ahead. This is, like I said, I want to assume that we already have our questions for anything you have or any question that you have regarding interview preparation, whether it's the UK job market, whether it's the Nigerian job market, any question that you have regarding job application, regarding interviews. This is the time I want you to jot your questions down. We're supposed to have Samuel on the call, but for some unseen circumstances, is not here currently. But don't worry, I have Yomi on the call who will be doing justice to some of your questions. Might check Yomi. Are you on the call with me?
Yeah, I'm on the call. I'm on the call.
All right, thank you. So do you have like do you want to have like an introduction to who you are, what you do, and how you're here to help them prepare for their job interview, or any questions that they have?
Okay. I'm not meant to be on the spotlight actually. So I'm not fully prepared to share anything much about myself. But just before I do, I really want to apologize for the mild delay. Uh, Someone will be joining us very shortly. He's just trying to ensure that he's off where there's noise because he's just actually leaving office. So that wasn't envisaged anyway. So yeah, my name is Yomi, and I um I basically am an important person in the transition school. Over the course of the years, personally, I've been passionate about helping people, especially understand what it means getting into tech and a few other things like that. And having experienced the challenges within the job market, I, for one, as a technical person and as a senior IT person, I've had to interview persons for different roles back home in Nigeria before even relocating to the UK. And I've been privileged to see challenges that people tend to face when it comes to interviews in itself. And also getting here in the UK and having gone through the interview process the way it usually is, and well, I've personally been able to scale through a number of them. I've been able to, get to see also the challenges as it relates to this particular um, terrain here. So I think for me, I count it as a thing of privilege to be able to assist, our alumni, even people that are non-alumni, people in our community, our transition school community, and even individuals, out there, being able to help them with, interview preparation, having to prep their CVs and a few other things. And yes, the feedback has been awesome. The testimonies have been awesome, as long as most of these rules are met, So again, I just personally would say I count it as a thing of privilege being here. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Yomi. Thank you for being here. So, as someone who has gone through the whole thing, just like you said, from Nigeria all the way to the UK, and you currently work here, you're doing great stuff in the UK. So, for people who would be preparing for their interviews, now this question is going to be like a general question. So, it doesn't matter if they're coming in as a software developer or project manager or business analyst or whatever. So what would you say are like the common interview questions in the UK job markets? Like for anyone, what should they look out for? Those common interview questions in the UK job market.
Okay. Well, I think the UK job market is a bit peculiar in the sense that first, I think what we need to know or recognize is the fact that um the UK job market is more particular about what you're able to do than whatsoever years of experience that you might think you've had so far. And I think in any capacity you're trying to, apply for within the tech landscape, or even if it's not tech, whether even healthcare or whatsoever, it is important that you are able to position yourself as a person of value. They don't care much about whether you have masters and all of those things, except the role actually specifies that okay, masters is required for this role. So you having to say, oh, you want to talk much about oh the fact that you have masters here, you have this there, you have that. It doesn't matter much. Now, second thing itself that also matters itself is for whatever landscape that you're trying to work, they expect you to be someone that, when you're asked questions, you're able to, you're someone that is a solution provider. So they will typically ask you more of questions that are scenario based. They wouldn't ask you much question about, even when they ask you, tell me about yourself, they don't expect you to tell them about your family history and all of those things. What they would typically expect is, you giving feedback or responding to that question based on your capacity relating to that role. You understand? So when they ask questions like "Tell me about yourself," what they want to hear is who you are and why you should be employed for that particular role. In what capacities have you worked relating to that role? If it's not relating to that role, they don't really need much about that. Now you could now put in a little, stuff like the fact that okay, yeah, you love work-life balance, and this is how you relax in terms of leisure and a few other things. But outside of that, ensuring that your responses, irrespective of the question, because there are plenty of questions, right? Irrespective of the question, ensuring that your responses align to that particular question. Again, I mentioned one thing. Questions are more scenario based. So they would ask you questions around, oh, tell me about a time where you have probably like done XYZ, and the feedback they want to hear itself. Usually the UK is more around. I'm sure most of us here probably have heard of what we call like the STAR approach or the STAR. Yes, the STAR approach to responding to interview questions, which is basically situation, task, I think action and result. Right. So when they ask you, tell me about a situation where you've done X, Y, Z, or tell me about a situation where you did X, Y, Z. What they would expect itself that you respond is first provide a base situation, like what was that particular scenario in itself, or what was that problem that you were meaning to solve. That's the task in itself. I'm sorry, that's the situation. Then the task. What did you do? within the jurisdiction of that particular situation. Then the next thing itself is, oh, sorry, the task that was assigned to you, not necessarily what did you do, the task that was assigned to you based on that situation. And next itself is like the action. What did you do differently? How were you able to solve the problem? They really need you to be able to provide most of all of these answers and succinctly. You don't have to go from here to there to there to here. You understand? And then finally, the results. What was the result? Now, most employers want to hear metrics, they want to hear numbers, they want to actually see you quantify what you've been able to get done. So it is important that you're able to respond in that particular manner. And recently, I spoke with someone and it was like, I think it's also a nice one to add a final thing, which is the L. So that's lesson, right? What was the lesson you were able to learn in that particular scenario? You being able to answer that within a very short time frame helps a lot. Even when they ask you closed-ended questions like, have you done this before, right? They don't expect you to just say yes or no. You can just say, yes, I've done this before. Then you give the star response, and that will be able to help you answer appropriately. I hope I've been able to address that properly, Praise.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was going to ask a question about how can candidates effectively use the STAR method in their interviews, and you've done justice to that. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you're taking notes. The STAR method is very, very important in terms of interview preparation. And you can add the last one that Yomi just said, the lesson. For every project that you're going to work in or work with a project team, there's always going to be a lesson at the end of every project, whether you like it or not. So it is important that you document all of this because it's going to help you in your interview. All right. So, Yami, thank you so much for that. Now, my next question would be how important it is for candidates to do to research the company before an interview, whether in the UK or in Nigeria. How important is it? Why are you laughing?
It's not like saying you want to marry a wife or you want to marry a husband and you do not check maybe their Instagram profile or LinkedIn profile or do some background research whether they are fit for you. Um, and I think most people actually make this mistake a lot. Personally, I've made that mistake as well, where I've applied to maybe like hundreds of jobs and they just tell me, oh, there's an interview tomorrow. And I basically have like little or no moments to prepare. And I just, because I think it is important I probably start from this. Interviews usually have multi levels, especially here in the UK, for example. You would have that first call where a recruiter, in this case, not a technical person, most cases, a recruiter will just call you and like, oh, this is the role. Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And you say maybe yes, 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 yes to most of those questions. And then if you give a no in maybe like you don't have certain skills, once you give maybe like one or two no's, and those questions they asked you, maybe they are related to that role, they are very important for that role, most likely they will send you an unfortunately. That one is a default. However, if you've been able to scale through the first phase, which is like the recruiter level, you move on to like the actual interview, maybe like a first level interview, where you probably like get to meet either with the line manager or the technical team, depends on the organization. Um, Now, what they would just a few seconds. So, what they would expect that you just a few seconds, please. Now, what they would expect is that um you're able to have gotten every sufficient information about that company. First, sufficient information about the role. Second, sufficient information about the company. Everything that you might need is on the websites. Really, they won't ask you anything that is outside of the website. So it is very important that you have an understanding, an in-depth understanding of the company. I've once lost an interview position. Sorry, not interview position, but I've gotten an unfortunate email one time that I was actually applying for a role, and I got a call first thing in the morning. I was still even trying to struggle out of bed, 8 a.m. And this person just said, oh, I'm a recruiter from XYZ company, blah, blah, blah. I had to quickly try and pick up my laptop and see if I could have actually like check out their websites. It was like a whole rush and all. And they started asking me some of these questions like, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? And because I wasn't so sure of the organization and every other thing, I gave a note to a particular important question. They said, do you have an idea of how to run, how to develop, or do you know what a SaaS product is? I'm a software engineer. I should know what a SaaS product is. But because of the entire lack of preparation, about the company, about the role and every other thing, I just gave a no. And that was majorly what was required for me to scale through. And the call had not ended, probably like 5 minutes or so. I just received an unfortunate instantly. I was like, what? So it is very important for you to actually do diligence research, not just about the company, the detail about that role is very important. Because if any company, especially here in the UK, where they are very particular about documentation, they're asking they're asking you a question, it is most likely related to that particular role. And it's because they need you in that particular capacity for that particular skill. So once you're not able to provide a proper answer, and especially relating to the company and also to the role, so don't just do the research about the company, do the research about the role as well. Those two things are very important. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yemi, I feel that one day we'll talk about this so many, unfortunately, but that will be a discussion for another day. So thank you so much for answering that question. That was really, really detailed. That's going to take me to my next question because you've talked about how important it is for candidates to research the company that they would be interviewing with. Now, the common question after doing the research, the common question of why do you want to work for this company? Can you do a little bit of justice, like to give us a scenario based answer of if you were to be in the shoe and you're being asked, why do you want to work for this company? How would you typically answer that, Yomi?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the very, 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 very interesting questions. They that would probably be asked, although not in most cases. UK organizations are quite practical, right? Obviously, the reason you want to work for us is because you either want to switch jobs or probably better pay, right? It's never about passion. I don't think so. However, you could be, trapped with this question sometimes. And one other related question they would actually ask is why are you leaving your current role, especially if you're leaving a role, you understand? And what I would usually tell people to say is the fact that you're looking for continuous growth. Emphasize how you have been able to, what you saw in the role, that's the new role, how it supersedes what you currently do in your current role. So you can talk about the fact that you can give a scenario of maybe like one of the projects that you've had to be doing, and you probably have been working on monotonous tasks for a while you actually love the company and while you would actually love to continue with the company, you as well need continual growth or personal growth, you understand? And seeing this responsibility looks like an opportunity for you to be able to grow, meet with new developers. I'm using an example as a software engineer anyway. You meeting new persons that are well skilled or much better than yourself. If you're actually coming in the capacity of a leader, well, I think most persons that are probably here are probably like not looking at leadership responsibilities, because the recruitment process for leadership responsibilities are even much easier, quote and unquote, compared to maybe like entry level persons also. But if you're probably like coming from an entry level position, the best response obviously is you need career growth. You have been able to get this and this done over the course of the year, because you also don't want to seem like someone that doesn't know anything. Over the course of the years in preparation for your first job, you've done this, you've done that, you've done this. However, you need an environment where you're able to thrive. So you giving an answer that actually shows that this person is passionate, this person is looking for growth, it really helps. Also, you can talk about the fact that the role is interesting. You need bigger things, you need a better pay. That's also something you can say. So there are plenty of options, but don't make it seem like you don't have value. That is now where the problem is, because some people would not be able to give, they probably might drag. Now, one thing I think I need to emphasize here is this: interview sessions are negotiation sessions, right? If you yourself don't see value in you, right, it might be difficult for an interviewer to see value in you. So you need to position yourself as someone who is coming to sell value, right? You're a business person, you're coming to sell value. You having that mindset, it's easy for you to respond boldly, because that's another thing. They need you to be able to respond boldly to most of these things. So that's I think I've been able to give like a few tips as to how you can respond to some of these questions around why do you want to work with us. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yami. Guys, Yemi has been answering some of our questions. Now, if you have question, you're on this call, you have question regarding interviews, anything, please put it in the chat box. I will be picking them randomly. And you cannot tell me that you took time out of your busy schedule. Some of us are just leaving the office. Some of us are just leaving our shift. And we are here on this session. It's because we want to get something out of it. You cannot tell me you're in this session without having at least one question to ask. So please put it in the chat box. I'll pick them randomly, then would ask either Samuel or Yomi. So please put your, if you know you cannot type, you feel that it is so lengthy and you cannot type, just use the raise hand button. I would call on you, give you the mic to speak, and then you can ask your question. But don't tell me you're in this session without a question. That's not possible. So, Yomi, I'm going to go to the next one. Now, we know soft skill. How soft skill? Now, what do you think the role of soft skill play, and how can candidates highlight them during their interview? So let me rephrase it. How important it is for candidates to have soft skills. Now, I'm not talking about their technical skills or what tools they can use. I'm talking about soft skills that they can bring in as a value into the company. You help me highlight some of them and how candidates can also highlight them during the course of their interview.
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Now, soft skills are in, especially in most organizations, right? They would rate your soft skills even ahead of your technical skills. That's the truth of the matter. If you are exceptionally talented but you're not teachable, you're not a fit for any organization. If you exceptionally talented and you're not able to communicate clearly, right? You are almost not a fit. You understand? And these are the subtle things that organizations look at when you are interviewing. The interview process is not just a test of skill as to technical skill, it's also a test of your personality. So, a few things that organizations are looking for are people who are able to take charge of responsibility, the sense of ownership. Are you able to take sense of, are you someone that even in your normal day-to-day responsibility, you're able to take responsibility? And most of the interview questions they will ask you, and they're asking it to be scenario based because they want to be able to actually test also your soft skill. So subtly, they're actually testing your soft skills. But in the macro, like looking at it entirely, you think, oh, this is about my technical skill. So you want to prove a point that, oh, I'm exceptional at this, I'm good at this and that. So you need to find a way to ensure that while you're communicating, you try to be someone that is able to communicate effectively and clearly. If you're talking about like let's say maybe like you're a business analyst or you're a project manager and you're communicating but you're not using like those lingo of project management appropriately, then it's also like almost a fail. If you are probably like let's say maybe like if you're a BA or let's say as a BA, you're expected to also have the soft skill of being a leader. So how are you able to prove a point that you're able to lead and coordinate teams? Also, let's say maybe like you're a software engineer like myself or a product designer. How are you able to ensure that you actually portray the fact that you're a team player? You understand? So in your conversations during or your responses during interview questions, even your manner of negotiation, your manner of even speaking, because some of us we try not to, well, we forget the fact that this is, as I said, it's a business contract. Interviews are, negotiations about, I want you, what do you have for me? I have value and I want you to pay me for this value. So if we're not able to position ourselves and also communicate effectively, take your words carefully. You don't have to like rush to every answer, rush to every question. You don't have to carry let me say they ask you a question like just looking and all of those things. Those little things, they really matter. So in essence, personally, I would say in the course of my experience and even the fact that I've interviewed a few persons, right, most organizations will rate your soft skills ahead, you know, of even their technical skills. if you're not, oh, thankfully Samuel is here now. If you're now able to defend, most of all of this technical skills, but using the skills you have, like, having to leverage on some of these your soft skills, it helps you a whole lot. So soft skills are very important. Most people don't pay attention to that. If you are teachable, right, but you are still probably like struggling with the basis of project management, the chances of you being hired is higher, you understand, than you having all of the skills in project management, but you are not a team player, you don't communicate effectively, and every other thing like that. So I hope I've been able to also do justice to that question. Thank you. Welcome.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yomi. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To think that you're not even an HR personnel, but then you're killing this question. That's why it's good to, have experience in all of this. But at this point, I want to say a big welcome to Samuel. Samuel, thank you for joining the session. I hope that you had a good day. It's good to have you here. And for everybody on the call, Samuel Akinlotan is a talent acquisition consultant who has had
I can. Good
years of.
evening.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. Don't worry about introductions. Good evening. How are you doing?
Okay, okay, it's okay. So, do you want to just say something, like introduce yourself before I like ask you a few questions? Because this session is just supposed to be a very short one. So, just you have the mic, introduce yourself. I'll ask a few questions, and we already have some questions in the comment section.
Great. Thank you very much for hosting the session, Kelechico. I'm really excited to be here. Sorry I
Thank
joined up
you.
late. I'm having a London day, if you don't mind me. And I would have loved to turn on my video. Actually, I can't for a few seconds more. I'm in a public space, so I might not be able to stay on video for so long. But really pleased to be on here, and big thanks to Yomi for also having me join your session today, just to share a bit about some key interview tips. Um, just a bit about my background. My name is Samuel Akinlotan. That's my name most times. I have some other names that some of my friends call me, but that's good. I'm an HR professional. I've been practicing in human resources for about 12 years across a number of functions, across talent acquisition and talent management, most of it. And I've worked in a number of industries as well, from consulting to financial services, FMCG, just to name a few of the industries I've worked. And in my career, if I'm going to peg a number to it, I've hired over 1,000 roles, and that is me just, putting it closer to it, but I've done, trust me, I've done over 2,000 roles in my career. In the last 3 years alone in the UK, I had over 300 roles, and we're just to put, and these roles cut across mostly professional roles, project managers, business analysts, data analysts, product managers, digital journey managers, even to the senior roles at the leadership level, executive roles as well. So that's just a bit of it about my background. And, really excited as well to be sharing on what we'll be talking about today, interview tips, just bringing my experience to the fore to also answer questions as much as I am able to. Just also checking that you can still hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you, but just a
Okay.
bit shaky.
Oh, probably. Sorry about that. But so thank you. But I think that's most of the introduction. So I'll pass it back to you, Kelechi.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So I've asked Yomi this question, but I also still want you to answer them based on your profession. What are like the common interview questions in the UK job market or general job markets? Those kind of questions that people should really focus on.
Very insightful question there, I'll say. And some of the common interview questions, to be honest, are some of the things that we are very, very used to. And in my own experience, it's always revolving around the soft side of it. And I think that's something I've seen a bit more in the UK job market, for example. A lot of us, when it comes to interviewing, we focus on, there are two aspects majorly to interview questions. We have the technical interview questions and we have the behavioral interview questions. The behavioral interview question focuses on you as a person, while the technical focuses on the job most times. While technical skills and competencies are good to have, behavioral, I've seen that there are more emphasis on behavioral competencies, especially in the UK. And what does this mean? I've seen that there's an ideology that it is not what you know that makes you perfect for the job. It is how you do what you do on the job that makes you perfect for the job. And and that comes from things like your attitude, your ability to work with other people, your communication style, and you as a person, your personality. That's what makes the difference. So, and this also influences the type of questions that are asked at interview. And I think the most common one that we are very, very much used to is, tell us about yourself. In some cases, it will go to things like, how would you describe yourself? Or if a friend was to tell us about you, what would they say about you? But it is still always starting from you. And one sweet thing about this question that a lot of people miss is that this question gives you an opportunity to, not just to sell yourself for the job, but to show how amazing you are. What do I mean? There's a universal hiring rule. And this universal hiring rule says that you don't have to be the most qualified. You can search it there online. You don't have to be the most qualified candidates to be hired for the job, but you must be liked to be hired. And this is just very common sense. I've seen too many situations where hiring managers are just like, I like that candidate and I'm going to hire them. That's the other one I want to hire. And you see that there are people that have probably more experience, more skill sets in quotes, more than the person that the hiring manager prefers. It's just because they like that candidate. So even though you are qualified, you will not show a personality or a person that can be liked, that people would want to work with, you are doing yourself a disservice, basically. So questions like tell me about yourself, how you describe yourself is a very, very sweet place to bring together, that likability, that connection, connect with hiring managers, interview panels as much as you can. And you realize that a lot of things also influence these things, which I'd love to share as we go down through this session as well. Other questions that would focus on these are things around your strengths and weaknesses. And so it could be asked in different ways as well to say, what would you consider to be your strength around this role? Or what are the areas you think you need to develop? That will focus on weakness. A lot of people are also not familiar with these things. And there are tools, there are a lot of things that can help us better prepare for these personality assessment tools, for example, career assessment tools, for example. There is one I always recommend. It is called personality types. And it uses the 16 personality types, to access you. You just answer a few questions. And it gives you feedback around your strengths as a person, weakness, the type of relationship, how you manage relationship, type of career decisions you make and career paths you choose. The thing this can help you do is it can enrich your conversation when you're answering questions like that. You can check truity.com, for example, and Truity is TRUITY.com. It has very, very good personality assessment types on there. Another one, that I would say is areas for development. And you can look at areas of development as weakness to say, what are areas that, if someone's going to give you feedback that what do you need to develop or do better, what will it be? That is also another type of interview question. And behavioral questions can also extend to competencies that also focus on you, your communication style, how you resolve conflicts. For example, those are other questions that would come up. So I wouldn't say there are verbatim standard questions that are consistently asked. These questions will be asked in varying ways, but the focus should be on how am I communicating myself from a behavioral competency or skills perspective. And this does not have to only be, communication stakeholder. It could be things as simple as critical thinking. Tell us about a time where you did something differently, or you saw something that needed to change and you started it, or you suggested it, or you were a part of it. Things like that. Critical thinking, showing your adaptability, showing that you are adaptable. So it just revolves around behavioral skills a lot of times. I think those are like the most consistent. The technical one would now be subjective to the job. I hope that helps a bit.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. That was really, really detailed. So before you joined the call, before I move on to the next question, Amiza is asking, what's the best way to answer why are you suitable for the role?
Why are you suitable for the role? Answering that question, why are you suitable for the role, does not start at the interview. It is a question to have prepared for before that interview. And what they are trying to check is not, remember one thing, and this is something, that is very, very key when it comes to answering a question like this. Why stable for this role? Anybody that has invited you to an interview, first of all, they believe you can do that job. That's why they've invited you. As a hiring manager, as a recruiter, I'll not invite you to an interview to have spend 1 hour with you if I don't think you can do the job. That's the first thing you should understand. So it is now for you to go and sell yourself when you're presenting yourself for that interview. That's like the key thing. And that starts from understanding, first of all, what does value mean on this job? If this job is adding value, for example, what does it mean? How do you identify this? Start with a mapping, a job mapping. That's something I always advise. Start with a job mapping. Who are the key stakeholders for this role? For example, let's say it is a business analyst role. For a business analyst, or let's say a project manager, you have team members on there. You have sponsors sponsoring the project that you are managing. You have other stakeholders that are maybe end users that the project you are managing will affect or anything like that. You first of all identify all your stakeholders. What does value mean to them? That's the first key question you ask yourself, because it is those people that will determine if you're adding value or not in that role. The next thing you have to now do is, what are the key skills required for this role? We have started from a value mapping, and you're looking at the skill sets required for this role as well. That's the second thing. Then the third thing is, what does this business do? This organization I'm looking to join, what do they do? Because you need to look at it from three perspectives: the people, the role, and the organization. So the people are the stakeholders that this role is working with. The role, the skill set required to perform and be successful in that role. And the organization, is this an environment I also fit into? Let me flip it back a bit. One thing to also notice, and I'm being, as nice as possible, when you are interviewing, it is not about you. It is about the job. A recruiter, yes, they like your CV, they like your face, but if you are not a match for their job, they will not hire you. So the important thing there is the job. You have to align yourself to the job. Remember, from a people, role, and organization perspective. So if they ask you a question to say, why do you think you're a good fit for this job? You've identified, for example, to say, oh, my name is Samuel. I believe some of the key things that are important for this role, identify what value means. Communicate it straight up. I believe this role will do A, B, C, D. And as part of, being able to do A, B, C, D, I believe I can deliver on A, B, C, D. So you mentioned, if at all you've done anything related to those things that means value to stakeholders on that role, reiterate it right there. After you've done that, then go to the skill set that you have as well. Over the course of my career, I have, developed certain skills, list those skills as well. Remember, it must be relevant to the job. After you've listed those skills, preferably with experience. Remember the STAR method. Even if it is just one example, a time where you've demonstrated one or two of those skills, where you've gotten feedback about any of those skills as well, list it on there. And then the final thing, to cap it up when you're answering the question, is to mention how you are aligned to that organization. And I also believe, this role is a perfect role for me to move into right now, because it is in a consulting environment. It is in the financial services environment where, aligns with my long-term career plans. So it is you aligning yourself. Remember, you are coming from, I understand this role. I understand what value means to me. I have done it before. I have the skills for this role. These are the skills for this role. And I have it. And I want to be a part of this organization. That is a very, very good approach to it. Remember, people, role, or skills, as you would call it, an organization. So I think that would be my thoughts on that one.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. If you're just joining, this is an interview preparation clinic with Samuel. So kindly drop your message in the chat box. I'll be picking it from there. We have about 20 minutes to go for this session. Now, before I take the next question, I would want to ask you this, Samuel. Is it important for candidates to follow up after an interview session? If yes, how can candidates follow up with after an interview session to show that they are really interested in the position? So it's just like a 2-in-1 question. Is it good to follow up after an interview session? If yes, how can candidates then follow up after that interview session?
Yeah, interesting. I think the first caveat I would want to share on that is to first of all make sure you have you've done well at the interview. I think that's like the first caveat. Make sure you have performed very well at the interview. You are confident you've done very well at the interview. If and this is something that also happens where we beat ourselves up. It's like, oh, I forgot to mention that thing. That follow-up message is a very good way to resell yourself. To say, hi, good afternoon, I'm Kelechi. I had an exciting time having a chat with you yesterday about this role. This is a role that aligns with my next career move. Still reshare again, probably things you've shared there. And I believe I have the skills, I have the experience, mention those skills, mention those experiences as, as concise as possible, mention them there. If there's anything you also feel like, I forgot to say this at the interview and you feel like I can give you an advantage, put it on there again and, say that, thank them for their time and you look forward to hearing from them. Do that at most. I always say within 48 hours, at most 48 hours, don't let it be too long because we could have made that decision outside that time. So it is not a follow-up per se, it is just a thank you. I enjoyed myself. I'm still interested in this opportunity. If you feel like the salary, they didn't say anything, or you feel, oh, you're above our budget, tell them again that, oh, you know what, I'm very flexible, to negotiate. So they feel, oh, this role is too junior for you. Let them know, oh, I'm still looking to deepen my competency. This is just a way to any concern with race as well at the interview. It's a very good way for you to address it, to clarify anything at that point. Thank them again, and ask, leave an action. That this is something I always also say. Leave an action for them. Leave a call to action for them to say, you love to hear from them, or when do you expect? Don't leave it as I'd love to hear from you. Say, when do you expect, to get a feedback? That prompts a response or a prompt for them to come back to you as soon as possible. That is something I always advise as but follow up is always good.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Samuel. So I'll just take some questions in the chat box. So Tifa is saying, I just started my tech career. I'm hoping to land a job in 6 months. What is your best advice in achieving that, especially with the fact that I am new to the industry?
So to start, to be honest, the tech space is a bit interesting. Space is saturated as well. But I always advise, cast your net wide. A lot of people that are just starting out in tech, they focus on IT firms too much. They focus on the Facebook, the Google, all the big firms. And I always say, if you're starting out, for example, as a data analyst, a business analyst, a business intelligence analyst, name it, any role, as it may be, even a software developer, front-end web developer, sometimes you don't have to go all out to. I'm not saying it's not possible to get all the big roles, but you need to understand that that space is a bit more competitive and it can discourage you to keep getting rejected. Look out for smaller organizations, maybe, that might not have a process or a recruitment process that might not be as structured as the Facebook, as the Google. They have to do 2-3 interviews, case studies, assessment centers. There are smaller businesses that will give you a chance, that can gamble, that can take a bet on you. It's a very, very good place to look at. And it does not have to be in IT industry. I can say every organization you get, most organizations have IT infrastructures. No matter what, most organizations have IT infrastructures. It could be in construction industry, it could be in retail, whatever sector it is. Don't just let your focus be on IT industry. That's what I'm saying, or the big industries. It could be in healthcare as well. Healthcare organizations, they have IT systems as well that they probably use to manage their patients, manage cases, among other things. You can look at opportunities in those industries as well. So what I'm just trying to say is cast your net wide and don't limit yourself to where everyone is going to. That's like my first few thoughts. Also in that time, have a growth mindset. That's another thing I would say. And when I say have a growth mindset, what I basically mean is don't limit, don't see yourself. From time to time, you would apply for jobs, and you will see that some of these jobs, they would request for skills that you do not have. So don't see it as you not being good enough. see it as an opportunity to grow. Because when you have that perspective about yourself, or that mindset about yourself as not being good enough or not ready even, it limits the confidence that you would have in yourself. It will limit your self-belief when you are presenting yourself or your ability to sell yourself opportunities. That was what something I would always say. So instead of seeing yourself as not being good enough, see every opportunity as want to learn to develop yourself. And that is very, very key, because no one in the world, I can assure you that no one in the world knows it all about any profession. And I was reading a case about, if anybody knows UML, Unified Modeling Language, which is a programming language as well. The person that founded, the first person that built that UML, the guy was having a bug issue on UML. And he was just asking questions that, he's having this bug issue on UML and he does not even know what is wrong with it. This guy has been doing this for about 20 years. A person that has about 3 years work experience using UML came to fix that bug for him. So you can imagine a person that built something, founded it, it was having bug issues, and it was a person that has 3 years of experience. So don't also undermine what you know, basically. No one knows it all. So have that perspective about, as you're going through your career change, even when you see jobs that look like, they're asking for all of this, see it as opportunities to learn those things, and not that you are not good enough or that you are ready. You're not ready, rather. So those are like two key things I would say. Cast your net wide and have a growth mindset.
Absolutely. Cast your net wide and have a growth mindset. That can not be overemphasized. Thank you so much for that, Sama. That's really, really amazing. Now, before I take the next question, this is just like a random question that I get to see everywhere. There's a thin line when it comes to interview, there's a thin line between being confident and being proud, right? Some people say, oh, you oversell yourself. They think you're too confident. You don't oversell yourself. They think you don't even know what you're doing. How are you able to like undo this in this kind of situation? What would you advise the candidate to do?
I think the first thing about not coming across as proud, um, um, arrogant, or there's a word I'm looking for as well. My vocabulary is failing me right now. There's a word to use, but not to come across as proud or arrogant or anything at the interview. The first thing is authenticity. You have to be real with yourself. Yeah. A lot of times when we see arrogant people, it is because they are trying to present a persona or a person that they are not. They are trying to, overstate what is not. That is what happens a lot of times when people come across as arrogant or proud at interviews. So I think the first thing is, don't pretend to be someone you are not. That's like the first thing. Don't try to fit into a mold that you think the interviewer wants. Don't try to be what they, and this is very key. Just to cite some example, I've seen people that they feel they in a certain industry, for example, this is how people do, this is how people talk, this is how people dress, and while I'm not saying don't observe or adjust to what a certain space requires, does not mean you have to change the entirety of you to fit into it. You don't have to fit the entirety of you to fit into it. So the first thing I always say is be authentic. Present yourself the way you are. Don't try to fit yourself into a mood of what I think they want. Let me speak. This is what I think they want to hear. No, still be real with yourself. That's like the first thing I always say. Be real with yourself. The next thing as well is don't come across as, and I've seen cases where they ask people, so which areas, what would you consider to be your weakness? People are like, oh no, I don't have any weakness. I'm like, that's not possible. You are human. You have limitations. You are imperfect. You have vices. It's not possible not to have weakness. And that's also the thing. It is absolutely okay to be human. Understand that as human, you have limitations. You have limitations, you have imperfections. So when they ask you things around, what are your weaknesses, be real. If you say, I'm not good with numbers, and because I've also identified that I'm not good with numbers, I'm currently doing A, B, C, D. Oh, I'm not very strong at making presentations. And over time, I've taken opportunities in my church, in my local church, in my mosque, whatever it is, in my social cycle, to volunteer to do this so I can improve and improve my confidence and presentation skills. It is very, very key. Be yourself. That's like the most important thing I would first of all say. Be authentic, be honest, and admit on and agree with yourself that you're human. You have weaknesses, you can make mistakes. That's the first thing. The second thing I would also say, to avoid coming across as proud or arrogant is ask questions and listen at interviews. Ask questions and listen. You see people that come for interviews and before you finish asking them your question like this, they've already gone into that they're speaking and they're not even answering your question because they did not listen. Listen and ask questions. When you're at interviews, when they've asked you a question, listen and ask questions. That's basically it. So when they've asked you a question, pause, understand the question first of all, because if you go on and on because you want to talk about all your achievements, and all your achievements is not answering the questions that they've asked you. There's already a mismatch. And they just think you are either not listening to them or you are arrogant because you are more interested in your achievement than answering their question about the role they're interviewing you for. So listen first of all and ask questions. And the ask questions part of it is if something is not clear to you, don't try to bamboozle your way through it. If it is not clear, ask follow-up questions to say, oh, do you mean this? Or would you want me to speak about this? Ask questions. Also at the end of interview, don't feel like you know it all. If you have any area you are curious about, ask a question. Ask a question. And it could be as simple as, what would the success on this role look like? What would be the key? If I was to get onto this role, what do you think would be the key challenges? Or what do you think I'm doing in the first 3 months? Ask questions. So asking questions as well shows sometimes your level of excitement about the role. Sometimes it also shows humility, that you are curious, that you want to know more. So listen and ask questions. That's like the second thing I would say. Another thing is to show gratitude or appreciation. When you are also at interview, if at the end of the interview, show gratitude. Oh, thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed being in this conversation. Do the follow-up email as well. Do the follow-up email whenever you're able to. That's another thing. Something I always also say, which is like maybe the third or fourth, I was not counting. Focus on the facts. So when you're talking about your skills and achievements, for example, use specific facts and evidence to back them up. Don't just say, oh, I have leadership skills, I have this, I have led people into my career. No, don't just, just have a box. Be specific. For example, instead of saying I'm an excellent leader, say I led a team of 10 people to complete a project on time, mention the type of project, it resulted in a 20% increase in customer satisfaction, it improved user experience by this specific, just I'm an excellent leader. That is just, so vague. And maybe it might even come across as arrogant to some people. Go into the specifics. This way, you are not bragging or exaggerating, but you are demonstrating the value. You brought number into I led a team of 10 people. You are bringing in, the value and impact of what you have also done. Use numbers, percentages. If you've gotten awards, feedback from previous managers, testimonials, use these to support your claims. That is also something, to also focus on the fact that is also very important. And the last thing I would say is, also the word is be discerning. Be discerning. Be able to read body language of those that you are communicating with. Know your audience. Know the people you are speaking with. So, for example, if you know that the interview panel that you'll be engaging is maybe a much older interview panel, maybe baby boomers or something like that. You need to understand how you communicate because these are probably executives, and they would want to hear things around, facts, figures, business. They're looking at things like your business acumen. But if you are going about selling your achievements in college, it might not excite them as much. So it is very key. Know your audience. So before you go for the interview, research the company. Don't just, and I've seen this happen way too often as well, where they have to, so what do you know about us? And they just say big things, the values, vision, mission, things are just basic. Anybody can say that. Make yourself, different. Give yourself an advantage by know those you are speaking with. Research about the company, the role, the interviewers, even the competitors of the company that you are speaking with, who their customers are, who do they serve in the market. Do this research. Find out what they are also looking out for, possibly for that role. If you have a contact If you have a contact that you can reach out to, do that as well. Look, find out what they are looking for, values, culture fit. What are the challenges on this role? What are the goals for this role as well? Those are some of the things that you can also. It also shows that you are interested and prepared when you ask questions, when you also present yourself at the interview and you are saying everything you have found. This also increases your chances, and it also makes you come across as knowledgeable rather than arrogant. I hope this helps a tiny bit.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Samuel. That was really, really detailed. I know you've talked about a bit of the STAR method, but somebody has a question regarding that. And this is coming from Victor Amawo. It's saying, how best can one answer scenario-based questions? Sometimes I assumed I follow the STAR approach when answering these questions, but get rejected with a few feedback saying STAR method wasn't used. So how best can
That's a very good question, and I would share a cultural perspective to why. I recruit in the UK, and I'm just giving some background. And I've been in a number of conversations around why Black candidates, minority groups, do not get through interviews, which is something that is very real. The data supports it as well. 10% apply for a role, 10% are like Black candidates, and none of them even make it through. And the reason is there's a cultural perspective. So it is not just the STAR method as well. It is a storytelling or communication style thing. I always say this. I will still get to STAR method, but I'm giving us a background from the cultural perspective, where a culture can be a barrier. So let me give you a context, for example. In the UK, for example, or in Europe, they have a direct communication style, and this is influenced by the power dimension that exists in their society. What does this mean? So in the UK, for example, you can see the prime minister just walking down the street just walking down the street randomly at McDonald's. You can see some member of parliament just randomly grabbing beer by the with some guys, just people. That's just how they are. So the power dimension is not as wide, in Europe, in the UK, for example. And what this means is that a lot of people speak more direct. They say what they mean, so they can go straight to the point a lot of times. However, in an African context, or even Asian, we have a wider power dimension, and I'm sure a number of us can relate with what I'm saying. Where to see certain people that are supposed to serve you, the power dimension is just wide. Anybody that has some form of power or authority in society, the access to them is tighter. So this also means a lot of people have to do storytelling, explaining before they get certain level of access. This also happens in family dynamics. If you want to go to your friend's birthday party, you have to tell your mom 2 or 3 weeks ahead. You have to remind them. You have to explain to them that we do assignment after the party. That's why I'm going. And to be very honest, in European context or cultures, for example, they can just tell their parents. So the communication is more direct. However, in African society, we do more storytelling, which is what I'm doing, just giving you some context to this, all of this. What this means is that there is usually a mismatch in communication. So the person, just to give you some data, about 85% of recruiters in the UK, in Europe, are white. So what this means is that the people you'll be meeting at interviews, or hiring managers you'll be meeting at interviews, are mostly white. They are used to a direct communication style. They communicate directly themselves, and they're used to a direct communication style. And you are coming, more with a storytelling perspective, where you are sharing more context to how you are answering your interview questions. That is where it comes across as rambling. And that's one word I have heard often and often with Black candidates, where they say it was just rambling. How does this affect interviewing? When a lot of us are selling ourselves at the interview, through the STAR method, STAR is situation, task, action, and results. Because we want to share, the situation. We want to really elaborate on, what happened, why we need to do certain things, the situation. We elaborate so much on situation that, and remember, human beings have a short attention span. The moment you go into that situation and you are not concise and you are not direct in your communication, you are already speaking a whole lot about, situation before you get into task. By the time you get into action and result, you've probably lost them. You have probably lost them. And the truth is, the juice of your answer, the value in your answer, is in the action and results. Remember that. Nobody's hiring you for the situation and task. They are hiring you for the action you took and the results you got. Remember, always remember that. That is the juice. That is the sweet spot. So imagine you've lost them at situation and task, and then everything they are just hearing you say at action and results is blah, 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 because they're like, oh my God, can this guy just stop? Because you've gone on and on and on about situation and task by, sharing more content, which is not a bad thing. What I'm trying to say is that when we are using star, we need to use it the right way to understand who we are also communicating or speaking to. Get it? So when they're hiring you for action and results, remember, when you are talking about situation and task, be concise as much as possible, just an overview. There is a high chance that situation might not reoccur in that organization. But what might happen is what you did, you might do it again, action. The result you got, you need to probably get it again. That is the sweet spot there. So it is not about star as the methodology for answering interview question. It is us adapting our communication style to ensure that we are getting to where the value is in our answers early enough before we lose the audience we are speaking to. I think that's just my response to that.
So much for that. We're gradually coming to the end of the session. Guys, if you have more questions, please use the chat box, put it in the chat box, and we'll take the question. But while I've checked, I don't think we have any question. So Samuel, thank you so much. I would want to ask, what's like your final words for people who are currently preparing for an interview?
Final word when it comes to interview is, I wish it was the final word, but I'll put it into one word. I think the first thing is, don't tell yourself no before someone else tells you no. Don't defeat yourself before you even present yourself for that opportunity. That's like one key thing. Don't treat yourself like a victim before you present yourself. Prepare for that interview, confidence. I'm telling you this for free. Anybody that has invited you for an interview, they believe you can do the job. That's why they've invited you. They've not invited you because they have just 1 hour to waste or spare. It's because they believe they've seen something in your profile that they believe can deliver. So go with that confidence into that interview. Don't defeat yourself even before you get there. That's like one of the key things. And be positive. No matter whatever you've been through, be positive. Nobody wants to hang around. Nobody would want to hire a person that is negative about themselves, about other people, about what they've done, about what has happened to them. Be positive. I think this is like my final words. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Samuel. I really, really do appreciate. I want to say thank you, a big thank you to everybody who took out time out of their busy schedule. We started this session at exactly 5 p.m. and this session is going to last for even 45 minutes, but we've done more than an hour. So if you have more questions, you are in the community, the Slack chat. Sam, are you saying something?
No, not me.
Okay, so for our students and alumni, you're in the community. If you have questions or anything regarding interview preparation, do not forget that we have our some of our growth managers and customer success person there who would be there to attend to you. All right. So thank you everyone once again for joining the session. Samuel, thank you for doing absolutely justice to all the questions that were asked. I really, really do appreciate. So at this point, they said time flies when you're having fun. We've come to the end of this session. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Samuel.